Being chased by a sloop. No. 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 I'm too young to be used as currency. I'm too pretty.
Trying not to hit you.
He's got me boat. He's got me boat. Oh god, you're dragging me behind you.
That was the idea.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am of course your host, and today we'll be discussing various methods to sink skeleton ships. While it can be less challenging than facing off against other players, skeleton ships and skeleton fleets are a good way to practice and master your sailing skills, including trimming the sail, angling your ship, and firing your cannons. So I've put together this guide to give you some pointers on how to deal with our favourite maritime threat. Honestly, they're easier than this guy. Step 1. Stock up. First step to a successful skeleton hunt is to make sure you have all the supplies that you need to get through it. This will include fruit, cannonballs, lots of, planks, even more of, firebombs, dozen or so, and blunderbombs. You can store the chain shot if you really want to, but unfortunately it just passes through the skeleton ships. I will repeat that for you in the back. You cannot demast a skeleton ship. Step 2. Acquire the target. Skeleton ships are easy enough to find, given they look like floating disco parties and make the sweet siren sound once you've spotted them. They are also recognisable by being the only ships on the Sea of Thieves with fortifications added to them, but regardless, they currently only come in two types, sloop and galleon. Step 3. Initiate hostilities. Depending on what you're going for, you can go about getting the attention of skeleton ships in different ways. To fight the skeleton fleet, look for the big ship-shaped cloud in the sky, and then wait until the encounter begins by sailing towards it. It's worth checking the map for the encounter, as if you stray too far from the start point, you'll leave it, and the ships will sail away and leave you alone. This is separate from lone skeleton ships, who will hunt you from the ends of the earth should you disturb them. Lone skeleton ships can be slightly harder to gain the attention of, as they will only pay attention to you if you manage to hit them with a cannon shot or get close enough to them that they pay attention. And that is close. Step 4. To battle. It should go really without saying that you should cause damage to the ships to sink them. However, there can be more than one way to sink the skeleton ship. Quite recently I've been attempting to take on skeleton crews alone and have had to learn how to one-man these events so that I'm alive to collect the goodies at the end. Point 1. Cause damage. Seems obvious, right? You can do this in several ways, however the most obvious solution is to use your cannons. A good rule of thumb is alternating putting holes in the bottom deck and clearing the gun deck. If you can keep the gun deck clear of the other ship, it can't shoot at you, which is always good. A good way to do this is to set it on fire to constantly damage the gun crew. Now, before we go any further, here is some key information about skeleton ships. Skeleton crews respawn faster than you do, so don't die. If you do make a side stop to the Uber of the Damned, be prepared to bail and patch as soon as you respawn. As seen here, skeleton ships can move in odd ways, so be prepared for reversing, hard turning, and rapid acceleration and braking. Skeleton ships cannot be anchorballed. They have no anchor, and they can't be demasted as I pointed out earlier, so the chain shot is really fairly pointless. Skeleton ships can be boarded, although there's little point to doing this unless you have more than a one-man crew, as your crew can make the holes and then you can defend them. Which brings me to the final important point. Skeletons will board up holes, but they will not bail. I will repeat that last point. They have no buckets. This is useful because if you get close enough to the ship and you're out of cannonballs, just bail water into it. It takes time, but eventually you will sink them. Step 6. Collect the loot. While the solo skeleton ships can be sunk and have their loot collected at leisure, always perform a 360 on the horizon to check for opportunistic pirates who want to steal your hard-earned booty. This is especially true for the skeleton fleet, which reminds me in the final wave, sink the galleon last. Alright, so it's a bigger and more tempting target for getting rid of first, but the final galleon of the skeleton fleet tends to drop all the best loot, including up to 4 skeleton captains' chests, 4 skeleton captains' skulls, ashen chests, ritual skulls, and other tidbits for cash. Whereas the sloop that accompanies it has much less loot. It's also difficult to grab the best loot when you're still under attack. Step 7. profit. Hand it in and earn your cash. Simple as that, really. And that, weary traveller, is the end of my video on skeleton ships and how to loot them for booty. If you like this video, please like and leave a comment. If you really liked it, please consider subscribing and click on that bell so that you'll know when my next video comes out. Cannonballs, check. Coconuts, check. Planks, check. Oh, what have I forgotten? Ah, left the oven on.